he linked me this Soggy video. He basically said, there's been a lot of disinformation around me these past few months, and I feel like Soggy did a good job hitting a lot of it with facts. Would love if you covered it.
Did you think it would get this big?
No, I mean, truthfully, if you watch Soggy's video or any of these other videos that are coming out now showing all the discrepancies.
That was crazy. I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, what the fuck?
What, you're answering for me. Let me answer.
I've been brought to the unsettling conclusion that there is a conflict of interest between Jimmy, Mr. Beast Donaldson, and some of his recent online defenders. These men are Zoomers. They like being loud and they have all this energy, jumping around, and they like the minions. They like the minions a lot. I can't do what they do. I can't stand in videos. I'm not a 27-year-old child. I'm a 30-year-old man. I'm not a Zoomer. I'm a Zillennial. I've never even been to Tomato Town. And the only reason I'm still holding this clip-on mic like this is because this microphone broke, and the instructions I got on how to fix it, I just didn't understand, which I think loops it back around to being an old person thing. I don't use the skull emoji. All I have is the one with the teeth. I also think it's questionable that this guy was paid by an employee to fly to Mr. Beast for interviews. And how did you get leaked audio of someone getting fired from the company? Nobody could have predicted this. As my fellow mentally ill white boy with bad facial hair once put it, it's the backlash to the thing that's just begun. And now I guess I'm part of an additional backlash. Mr. Beast, in case you're not aware, is the biggest channel on YouTube. In July of this year, an ex-Mr. Beast employee going by the username Dogpack404 released a series of videos attacking Jimmy and the company. These were not the first times criticisms had been made, but it undeniably set off a huge public turn in his reputation. If you want to know more about these criticisms, I did a video about this in October. If you don't want to know more and would like to continue living a peaceful life, I've linked a series of videos in the description of a man playing with his weasel. Now it turns out Dogpack404 is the one who is over and done, and he is now the crying Wojak. I do want to clarify, I'm not just here to do shallow dunks on anyone who's pushed back on claims made against Mr. Beast by Dogpack and other channels. This is definitely not a damage control video. Please don't make me the crying Wojak.
But there could be potentially a President Beast. You never know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Even at the time of making that last video, I had my own criticisms of Dogpack. In between a lot of genuinely worrying claims about Mr. Beast and his company was, among other things, an outright false domestic violence accusation. Made even worse by the fact that Dogpack had already been warned that this information was not trustworthy. That alone made me cautious about what Dogpack was willing to put out there without doing adequate research. I also pointed out that many of the general criticisms, while not illegitimate, were things that I was skeptical most people would have really cared about outside of the context of a Mr. Beast exposed video.
When he realized that there was no $100, he was visibly disappointed. He said nothing other than, I guess he meant everyone except me.
It's not uncommon for companies to do giveaways that overinflate people's chances of winning prizes. It's not uncommon for companies to cater to a youth market with unhealthy junk food items. That's pretty much what candy is. And yeah, game shows often run on the idea that people are willing to put themselves through a lot of stress and discomfort for the chance of winning large cash prizes. Capitalism. But something I also mentioned was the feeling that there would also be an overinflated backlash against criticism of Mr. Beast pretty much as soon as Mr. Beast bad became the dominant online narrative. There are a lot of reasons for this. Some of it is justified, like the things I just mentioned. Some of it is because there's a giant pile of money in figuring out the biggest YouTube headline, and the only one bigger than the largest YouTube channel is evil is the guy who said that they were evil is also evil. Nobody could have predicted this. I think it's pretty easy to come away from all this with the feeling that this is all just melted into another rank puddle of meaningless internet drama. And maybe it is a bit. Maybe I should just go do more deliveries in Death Stranding, like my brain wants to. But also, maybe muddying the waters like this is exactly what powerful, influential people want to happen so that people stop examining their possible bad actions so closely. So today I'm going to try and clean these waters a little bit by going over the response to Mr. Beast's criticisms, and in particular, probably the biggest attack on Dogpack so far, made by a young buck name of Soggy Cereal. Soggy Cereal. Soggy Cereal. And now we're gonna go to that. And now we're gonna go to that. And then we're gonna go to that. So again, I want to be clear that, like, I know that there are plenty of fair criticisms you could make towards Dogpack and a lot of the criticism of Mr. Beast. So I'm interested to see how much of that will be portrayed here. And I hope that me saying this doesn't age badly.
Oh, so you want to cheaply manipulate people by imitating Content Cop? I'll show you imitating Content Cop.
See, I just can't do this kind of stuff. I remembered the fact that I still own a cop uniform from another video that I did, and I've chosen not to wear it in this video.
Yes. You're pushing back on everything that we're saying. So what?
Well, because you're trying to fire me, and I want to work at this company. I've been trying to get to this point of working on Mr. Beast for a long time. Can I please have a second chance?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that I was made aware of before I started watching this video. So, I don't fully know why you would... Well, actually, I do know why you would front load the video with this, is because it's like probably the biggest, splashiest thing, like you have the hot gossip. But it also kind of makes the video immediately seem dodgy as fuck. Like the idea that you have leaked audio of this guy getting fired from the company, something that is also, to be fair, not strictly relevant. I understand if they're trying to build this case that Dogpack was this vindictive guy that was never really interested in the actual bad things that Mr. Beast may have done. But that really only matters if what you care about is whether or not Dogpack is like a good guy, not necessarily whether the things that he's actually saying are right or wrong. I don't strictly care that much about the character of Dogpack or whether he was like kind of a dick when he was getting fired from his job. Really, I wish the focus from the beginning had just been on, you know, going against the claims that he might have specifically been making about the company, and I'm hoping that is the majority of this video, and not this.
For the people who have not been exposed to his propaganda yet, Dogpack 404, or DOS in French, is an ex-Mr. Beast employee who worked there for about 3 weeks, and after being fired, made or worked on videos filled with lies about Mr. Beast. But Soggy, are you going to glaze the Mr. Beast, Soggy? Are you going to decry the lunchly owning, alleged intentionally registered sex offender hiring Mr. Beast, Soggy? No. See, I think we can all agree that Lunchly kinda cringe.
I love the when you're trying to downplay a criticism, you're like, yeah, that was cringe. That was pretty cringe.
That's a yikes out of 10, okay? But that doesn't mean that just because this spiteful, vengeful ghoul accuses Mr. Beast
Spiteful, vengeful ghoul. Jesus, he really fucking hates this guy.
Let's talk about the lies spun by Dogpack and Jake Weddle, that Mr. Beast knowingly hired a registered sex offender and while working at the company would refer to him by covert codename Delaware because of the crimes he committed there, and as a result is not allowed to go back into the state of Delaware.
Okay. So my understanding of the Delaware situation is that yes, the Delaware nickname was a joke that people made. Like he had the nickname Delaware already, and it was just a joke that people made that, oh, it's because he's not allowed back in Delaware. Now, completely unrelated to that, he is a child sex offender. I know that some people have spun it into this thing of like, oh yeah, that's actually the reason that he's called that, even though that doesn't really make sense because, you know, as Soggy Cereal is pointing out here, this state banishment kind of punishment, it's not really a thing in this kind of situation. Or at least it wouldn't really make sense that people would be making light of this when, I mean, that's just fucking obscene.
The first manager that ever worked there, his name was Dan. He was actually a really good guy, but everyone was consistently making these jokes wildly inappropriate about his like 5-year-old kid. Like, gonna go home and insert name, like what? The craziest thing.
This really feels like a case of people taking a valid criticism and then pushing it just to be a little bit more sensationalist. It's not really refuting the claim that people were making jokes about it, and also that Mr. Beast hired a child sex offender, which seems to be the case.
As a dumbass, impulsive 19-year-old randomly thrown into fame, he went to his local Best Buy and asked its employees if they wanted to work for it, naively thinking that a multi-billion-dollar company would have at least made sure to not hire criminals and especially to not hire a registered sex offender.
Okay. So that just doesn't make any sense. Like, giant multi-billion-dollar companies can hire ex-cons. Like, ex-cons can have jobs. A very bizarre defense to be like, well, if Best Buy hired him, why would it be an issue for me as a man who primarily makes content aimed at children, something that he's admitted to in interviews.
The average demographic is what, 13 through 17? Is that the biggest spike in your analytics?
Well, I mean, mine's horseshit. It says like 18 to 24, but I know all my fucking viewers are little kids.
This is not in any way refuting the claims being made that Jimmy hired a registered sex offender. Unless Soggy does turn around and say that the claims that this guy is a registered sex offender are untrue, this is not refuting any of that. Something I did talk about in the last video was this idea of plausible deniability. I can't think of a better example than, yes, I did actually hire a registered sex offender, but, you know, it was just a mistake. It's a very legalistic defense that really distracts from the fact that, yes, it was a valid criticism because it seems to be exactly what occurred.
Should Jimmy take responsibility for making that mistake? Yes. But it wasn't this fucked up master plan by Jimmy to intentionally hire an RSO. It was a dumb mistake.
Who is saying that he intentionally hired a pedophile to work for him? The point is that he did.
It was a dumb mistake. Kinda cringe. That's a yikes out of 10, okay?
Okay, so I understand that we're sort of talking about two separate things, and I think this is something that's going to be important to distinguish. There's the sort of moderate criticism. So in this case, it would be that Mr. Beast hired a registered sex offender to help produce his content that is primarily aimed at children. And then there would be the ultra sensationalized criticism of like Mr. Beast runs a pedophile network and this is all part of his master plan. Technically, this wouldn't be like straw manning because I'm sure there are people making these types of claims. But if you're not going to refute the base accusation, I really think that there's a very limited response to that. There's a big difference between debunking the claim that someone hired a registered sex offender and debunking the claim that someone runs a secret pedophile network. Obviously, the burden of proof is a lot higher in one of those cases, but that doesn't mean that the initial accusation is invalid.
And guess what nickname was embroidered on his Best Buy uniform?
I don't know. Like, okay.
Wow.
I'm sorry if it seems like early on I'm really like jumping on this guy, but this is the joke explainer has logged on. It doesn't really say anything about my feelings on this situation, whether or not Delaware is unironically his nickname because he's a pedophile, or if it's just he's a pedophile and people make jokes about that using his nickname, which isn't because he's a pedophile.
Wow.
I mentioned straw manning earlier. Another thing that I think is important to think about is the idea of a Motte and Bailey. The basic idea of the Motte and Bailey is that you take a fair point and then use that as a way to defend what is actually a much more severe kind of claim. So in this case, I think the big thing that would need to be defended if you wanted to refute this claim is no, Jimmy Donaldson did not hire a registered child sex offender to work at Mr. Beast. Now, if we bring it to the reasonable point, which would be, oh, well, it's sort of unclear whether or not he was aware that this was the case when he hired him. It was 19. He was 19. It was just a kid.
I know all my fucking viewers are little kids.
Yeah, especially to turn this into an attack on Jake Weddle for mentioning the jokes about Delaware's nickname. Yeah, I don't especially care whether or not Delaware was his nickname because he was a pedophile, or if it's just he is a pedophile and separately he had a nickname that people joked about. That's not the thing that really matters to me. Moving on from this.
It was not to my knowledge that I was being recorded.
But first, have you considered Ground News? This is one of those sponsors that's actually relevant to the video because of how it's so ridiculously easy to fall into a bubble of confirmation bias on basically any story online. It's good to have an app I can peek at and at least get a sense of what people are saying from a variety of perspectives and how factual their information is. TikTok has also had a lot of criticism recently for its apparent role in the election of a far-right Romanian president. As someone who's both skeptical of institutions using social media panics as an excuse to clamp down on political speech online, but also of social media actually being used to misinform and manipulate people, I'm very much in need of a service to easily see which angles are conveniently amplified or ignored ignored depending on where you're getting your facts. So it's good to have a service I can open up and see a diversity of takes on the subject and how I might be getting manipulated. If you also might be interested in this, then just use the link in the description at ground.news/saints or scan the QR code on screen now. Make sure to use my link for 50% off unlimited access to their Vantage plan, whether you subscribe for yourself or send it as a gift. Thank you to Ground News for sponsoring this video. And thank you.
What about the recording we showed from a real Mr. Beast employee talking about Delaware? Do you really want me to go into detail about how you and your cronies tricked an employee into saying what you wanted him to say to support your lies, and then you guys recording him and using that recording without his consent?
It was not to my knowledge that I was being recorded. When two people speak about old places, you know, there's drama, there's gossip, there's catching up, there's, you know, et cetera, whatever. And then the next thing you know, 2 weeks later, Dogpack releases like a 12 million view video where, you know, I just have a really crappy voice changer over my voice. And if you know me, like, you know it's me.
So assuming that this is the case, this is exactly something that I criticized Prism for in the original video, the person who gathered a lot of information about Ava Tyson by essentially tricking someone who had spent a lot of time with Ava into a fake job interview, recording someone without their consent to then later use that as evidence. I think that that's like a very unethical thing to do in general. And I think, yeah, this is a completely valid thing to criticize Dogpack for, assuming that all of this is completely true. You know, the fact that in and of itself, the guy was talking about rumors that sound really bad, you know, I mean, unfortunately, you did say it, bud, but, you know, I think that would be another example of Dogpack acting in quite an unethical way, not necessarily something that refutes the claims that he's making, but definitely something worth criticizing. So, yeah, I'm going to say we're going to give him a tick for that one. Hopefully that somewhat clears up the fact that very early in this, I feel like I've been kind of ragging on Soggy quite a bit.
That'd be as shameless as falsely accusing someone of committing war crimes against the Geneva Convention in a consented to solitary confinement challenge where you'd earn $10,000 a day and can quit whenever you want and still keep the accumulated prize money.
Okay. So this is the second round of Joke Explainer.
So it was a joke?
Yes, he didn't commit a war crime. Because there's no war taking place. Obviously, Jake Weddle was technically allowed to leave the challenge at any time. Yes, I believe it was, in fact, a joke that Mr. Beast committed war crimes. And I have to imagine it's an extreme minority of people that literally think he's going to go to a fucking tribunal over this horrifically put together game show challenge that he did. The serious claim underneath that is that the way that Jake Weddle was treated was bad. That in self deserves criticism and is not distracted by the fact that he was also being paid for it.
There was so much pressure to just do it, just do the thing, you know? So I wanted to be a good sport and I wanted to get the boost and I wanted the cash, and so I start running at 12 and I'm running until 3 a.m.
I got off the treadmill.
Oh, the blisters I had on my feet were like, you wouldn't believe, just all over, just these big red. I couldn't walk. My muscles were like just...
Obviously, people that choose to do these kinds of challenges have the ability to leave. That would be the part where this starts to become some kind of, you know, crime. It's the fact, and a huge part of my video is about that. When money is involved, people are willing to subject themselves to things that they would ordinarily, like, never consider consenting to.
Was when you have no money. It's not a choice, is it? So...
But that in itself is messed up. Not necessarily individually makes Mr. Beast a horrible person, but it's definitely a symptom of a sort of broken world that we might live in, where someone would be like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to put myself through like severe physical and emotional abuse for the sake of getting a few $1,000s at the end of it. That sounds pretty okay. If you told me right now, I'll give you $10 million, but I'll cut your pinky off, I'd probably say yeah. But, you know, that's pretty bad, right? That I'd be willing to essentially mutilate myself for a large sum of money. But you know, I'm sure many people watching this would also take that bet.
In between him falsely accusing Jimmy of intentionally hiring an RSO and comparing himself consensually agreeing to doing a challenge for $10,000 a day, being allowed to leave whenever he wants.
That's a severe downplaying of the situation with Jake Weddle to just say, oh, well, he had the ability to leave, so it's pretty bad that he was trying to compare that to a war crime. The guy is, at the end of the day, a comedian, and especially for the idea that he put the definition of a war crime in the bottom left, and that actually further implies that it was a war crime. I know this might sound like bullshit, but when I saw that thing in the bottom left, I thought that was a way of clarifying that this does not meet the technical definition of a war crime. It's just a way of communicating that this was a really bad situation that he was being pushed into for financial reasons. Weddle has received many criticisms for taking the money in the first place, and I think it really speaks to just an awful situation we're in where people can be influenced to make these kinds of decisions and then be essentially victim blamed as a result of it.
I don't want Jimmy's money, but I need to eat food.
I don't think Mr. Beast is responsible for your poor financial status. You have to either choose, take the $50K and have a hit to your credibility, or deny all the money and keep your credibility.
Jake Weddle is a manipulative, unhinged crybaby and shouldn't be taken seriously.
And just to be clear, I'll show the clip of Dogpack's 13 million viewed video again, in which Jake and Dogpack clearly insinuated it wasn't a joke.
And I go, they're not turning the lights off. He goes, what? That's a war crime. We're not allowed to do that to terrorists.
Could there possibly be some indication in that clip that maybe he was joking? Is there anything... Is there any kind of action that Jake Weddle is doing as he's saying this that could maybe imply that he's not being completely serious? I don't know, man. The fact that they're exaggerating what happened doesn't take away from what happened. This is another case where we're taking the most sensational claims and elevating them to refute the entire thing, when that's just not what's being done here.
As well as spreading fake AI-generated incriminating voice recordings of Mr. Beast.
What are our options? Is this legally considered defamation?
For context, I have also seen this video. The point of the video was the way that false information can spread very easily.
I had somebody on my behalf put it in one of those like AI like scan to see if it's AI things, and it, swear to God, it came back 2% likelihood it's AI, and it's AI. I almost got bamboozled.
I'm hoping that Soggy acknowledges this, and if this is a criticism that he's making of Jake.
And you know how people will just watch the recording and then click off of the video without ever hearing your disclaimer that it was AI generated?
Bro, it's literally less than a minute in, is the thing he says immediately after. How long is the recording? Isn't the recording like 15 seconds, and then immediately after he like gets into the actual point of the video? That is a very weak criticism. Even maybe say bro, which I never say that.
$50,000 from Jimmy with no strings attached.
So, yeah, I mean, come on, man. Like, now this is actually doing the thing where you're criticizing Jake Weddle for taking the money, when that's the whole justification for Mr. Beast doing these unethical things. These things don't wash out, you know. Money is often used as a payment for unethical behaviors, but that doesn't now make the behaviors unethical. You can still be critical of what someone has done, even if you acknowledge that they then paid someone off down the line. And I especially wouldn't turn around and then blame someone for taking the money when that's the whole exchange happening here. The whole exchange is Mr. Beast is giving this person money as a way to make up for doing something unethical. I do think it is shitty to criticize someone for taking the money when we live in a system where that is the regular thing to do when an unethical thing is done civilly outside of a criminal situation. And I don't think this has escalated to a criminal conviction. Okay, so far we have 3 things crossed off on the list, and they're all a extremely heightened version of a criticism that, as it seems to be the case so far, has not actually been refuted.
Or should I say doctoring up evidence to make more convincing claims you knew to be untrue? Back 404. Yeah, Dawson, I'm the first one who noticed. See, for the third illegal lottery, buy a shirt to be in a video live stream, Dogpack claims they only informed people on the website that no purchase was necessary. Did you read the description? You know, the description which I got via the Wayback Machine, where it literally says free entry available on site.
Wait, pause if you want to read. The website did have no purchase necessary link hidden at the bottom of the page. And then you've shown a YouTube video in which no purchase necessary is hidden at the bottom of the description.
This one is the UI when he talks about the buy a shirt to be in my video live stream. And this one is the actual current YouTube UI you see whenever Dogpack shows a screen recording of public videos you can still watch.
Okay, so the criticism here is that he made a template so that it would look nicer when he was showing a video that had been archived outside of public view. It reminds me a little bit of, I remember Shadiversity did a response video to me, and he said that I'd like dishonestly misrepresented something that he said, and he used the fact that at one point I zoomed in on something he said to make it seem like I was connecting together things said in different videos. I tricked people into thinking was all one video because of this zoom that I did in one of the shots.
Why did he feel necessary to zoom in on this one? You know why? Because in the review, I'm not sitting in the center. I'm actually sitting on the side.
Alright, I'm trying to hide the fact that this is a different clip, okay, from a different video, because this is from the review, alright? But it seems quite clear that he doesn't want his audience to actually be aware that he is cherry-picking clips and disingenuously commenting. See what he's wearing in this clip? Now he's wearing that same outfit, and this one's wearing a brown shirt, but he's happy to show nothing.
Yeah, Dawson. I'm the first one who noticed.
I don't care that there was a template used to make the privated videos look nicer.
Funniest part is that Mr. Beast verbally says it on stream.
Go shopmrbeast.com, buy the shirt or hoodie. You could be one of the people that come down and compete in the video. There's also a free entry on the site as well. If you just 100 of which are going to be picked from you know, people that buy this shirt or hoodie, or if you enter for free on the site as well, it's, that's an option as well.
This is actually a lot more fair. I don't know why he front-loaded it with the thing that is kind of technically not the thing that he said when it kind of still was. Mr. Beast did mention it in the stream that no purchase was necessary. Now the thing is that it seems like those are two clips mentioning that across a stream that I'm assuming happened over the course of hours. So at any time people could have dropped in and that wouldn't have been mentioned, even though it's a thing that's very important for people to know, so that it doesn't give the impression that this is an illegal lottery.
Somebody screamed in chat, I want to switch. Hey, buy a shirt.
Now there is an easy way that you can make sure that anyone who drops into the stream at any time and just is watching the video can see that this thing is being run properly. Just put text at the bottom. There should just be text at the bottom saying no purchase necessary. Just put text at the bottom of the stream. Like in the stream video, you can just put a little disclaimer there, and then anyone who comes at any time will see that. I think that that's still a very fair criticism to make. It's definitely misleading, and it's very easy for people to not, open up the description, scroll down, and then find the little small print. It reminds me of one of those legal documents people have where, if you go down to the fine print, it's like, oh, actually, if you die at a Disney restaurant, you can't sue them or because you have Disney Plus. It definitely gives him wiggle room, and I do think that this is one of the more fair criticisms that I've seen so far. Dogpack should have acknowledged that there were a couple of token mentions of no purchase necessary by Mr. Beast in the stream, but yeah, absolutely, it should have been something that was made much more clear in the stream itself with text that was there all the time so that people can just pop in and out and then not get that clarification. Yeah, I'm going to say that one's a little squiggly. It's like a tick, but a little squiggly tick.
Mr. Beast changed the formula again to where it has mostly the same ingredients as Hershey's and even more sugar and more calories per bar.
Well, that'd be pretty messed up after Mr. Beast actively advertised his chocolate to be healthier than Hershey's. Luckily, it's just another lie. Dogpack is being deceitful here because he's comparing a single serving size 43 grams Hershey's bar to a 2 serving size 60 grams Feastables
Okay, so
bar.
That's one of those things that I feel like I need to do outside research to clarify, so just gonna pop it on the screen right now. If it turns out that this thing that Soggy's saying is not true, if it is true, that's good. That's another tick I'm gonna put down here. Now, on the other hand, I'll say that ever advertising fucking chocolate bars based on their health benefits as a way to encourage purchases is fucked in general. That in itself is very misleading, and especially when you're promoting a chocolate bar as the healthier alternative, that creates a lot of bad justifications for very unhealthy eating habits. It reminds me of how people will often think of like nut bars, or like those little like oatmeal whatever bar things that you can get, and often those can lead people to have very unhealthy diets because those are things that are specifically advertised as healthier alternative snack items. There's a lot of buzzwords that people can use as a way to push these kinds of products in a way that I think ends up being very misleading.
Our Feastables bars are 5 ingredients, and just all the ingredients are way higher quality, and it's infinitely better than the other options out there.
And harmful, and I think that's very much something that can still be criticized, especially in this case when Mr. Beast was like openly gloating about the fact that he was bringing new people into the chocolate aisle.
People who never would have bought chocolate in Walmart are walking to the chocolate aisle specifically to buy Feastables.
You're creating a new market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm bringing new customers to the aisle, which is such a net positive and one of the biggest KPIs these, buyers would want, that it's just like dumb not to have it.
It's another one that I think is like, you could semi-make defenses of it. Again, the whole existence of the chocolate candy industry has this sort of veil of unethical behavior over it. If you want to ask me, is it unethical to advertise this tree as a healthier alternative to a different tree? Probably not, really. I think that, you should always make it clear that what we're talking about is a junk food item, which a Feastable is at the end of the day. Anything else is preying on people's ignorance of the realities of the things that they are consuming, which is especially dangerous when we're talking about small children.
This pit is fake.
No, it's not. Here's footage of them digging the pit.
Shredder is CGI.
Nope. At this timestamp, they do shred an actual Lamborghini in a legitimate shredder. But I will say that when they use CGI, it looks fucking terrible, as if it came straight out of a CW show.
This car is digitally lifted.
This car isn't digitally lifted, however, they did change the original red coloring to blue to make a visual distinction between the first rocket car they launched and failed, which was red, and the second one they launched, which succeeded, but was also red. So in post, they just changed the second one's color to blue.
So my video is over an hour long, but I spent very little time talking about, they use CGI to enhance some of the things in the Mr. Beast videos, especially when it's like non-competition videos. I just don't think this is the sort of thing that really matters. Now, it's fair, they did dig a pit. They dug a pit. He said they didn't dig a pit. So, considering that these are the videos that are made specifically for entertainment, certainly wouldn't be a crime to use CGI to enhance certain bits of footage. I think that's why also in the original video, it's one of those things that skipped over very quickly. But also, yeah, just a silly thing pretty cringe to include that, I would say, on Dogpack's part. Yeah, definitely I'd put this in the cringe category.
Kinda cringe.
Although it's just to clarify that even off the top of my head, I know that there are situations where the content has been misrepresented. Like when Mr. Beast explored the abandoned city that wasn't actually abandoned. The recent video where it's like they were moments away from being swept away in the water, and you could clearly see cameramen just like standing in the water. It's like,
This meant that if we let go now, we could get swept away by the strong current directly beneath us.
Have you ever faked a video?
No.
Yeah, he clearly plays up the content a lot, especially considering that he has such a young audience.
I remember when I first started seeing your videos, I was like, this shit's gotta be fake.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's a huge problem for us now. I actually have to dial back my content sometimes just so people think it's real.
That's not something that I strictly think is on the same level as hiring a pedophile to work for you. Probably a formatting issue there, that those things would be put next to each other in a video. But yeah, definitely cringe. Definitely the cringe category.
This raccoon is a paid actor.
Or do you think it's acceptable to make false CP allegations? Which, maybe I should talk about that for a second. Dogpack 404 claimed to have access to leaked work chat messages, with one of them being Ava Tyson distributing alleged CP of Ivanka Trump. He also proudly admitted to having downloaded that uncensored alleged CP on a now deleted community post. Obviously, Dawson French himself was called out for owning and reverse image searching what he believed was fucking CP, because that is weird and a crime.
Okay. Like the idea that someone would have to see images to know whether the image was a good or bad image. I guess that's just a trap that you can kind of use on anyone who wants to point out that there's images being shared that are inappropriate. You have to at least know what the thing is. Like at the end of the day, I was aware who Shadman was before people were talking about him as a result of all this Mr. Beast stuff. Yeah, I guess I'm a criminal too, because I'm aware of the existence of those images.
Thousands of possibly child viewers wasn't to inform people of degenerate Ava Tyson, but instead was to push his own agenda, framing Mr. Beast into allegedly knowing that Ava was a confirmed pedophile. It's so disgusting. See, I say framing...
Okay, we're gonna mention the Shadman stuff, right? Because that was CP, that was definitely owned and shared by Ava Tyson.
This isn't a work chat. This is just a small snapshot of a company chat.
It wasn't a work chat. It was created as an NSFW meme chat by already known degenerate Ava Tyson.
So what we're saying here is that this wasn't a work chat. It was simply a meme chat that was populated entirely by employees of the company, including Mr. Beast. I'm just going to say that if I was the face of a company, and then in one of the chats that was composed largely of employees of the company, someone was posting images that they said was of a 13-year-old, yeah, I'd probably have brought that up and dealt with that in a disciplinary manner very quickly. It doesn't really fucking matter whether or not it was officially a work chat or whether it was just a company chat that was only for memes. What a ridiculous non-distinction that actually is. Come on. This is what I say is definitely a difference without distinction, or a distinction without difference. I guess there's not really a difference.
But Soggy, Rosanna Pansino and Dogpack 404 reported Jimmy Beast to the FBI, so he's gotta be a pedophile. I think people vastly underestimate just how easy you can report someone to the FBI. Even as a non-American citizen myself, I just created this entire forum of Rosanna Pansino and Dawson French, aka Dogpack 404, distributing CP in 2 minutes on tips.fbi.gov. Soggy Cereal reported Rosanna Pansino and Dawson French to the FBI? Holy shit, they've gotta be guilty now. See what I did
there? If anyone is making the claim that someone is a pedophile because they were reported to the FBI, yeah, you really got them. You really got them there. The people that are definitely saying that.
Also, I didn't submit this because unlike two other creators, I'd rather not waste the FBI's time from finding actual CP distributors to push a selfish, manipulative, and personal
but wait, Soggy. What if someone paused the video at that exact time? What if someone paused the video at that exact time? They would actually think that you reported them to the FBI. And wouldn't that be kind of like promoting reporting him to the FBI? I thought that was the exact thing that you criticized Jake Weddle for doing, except you're doing it 30 minutes into the video, whereas he did it like 30 seconds into the video. This is again something that probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but that's pretty glaring, right?
Look, I knew you were petty, Dawson, but I never expected you to stoop this low. He also tried dragging the famous anime Higehiro and its fandom through the mud by saying it's about a 26-year-old having a romantic relationship with a minor. And Mr. Beast saying Ava would love this? Even though the anime is about the exact opposite.
That show is about a 26-year-old guy, okay? He takes in this runaway girl who is selling herself to prostitution. It was actually a very wholesome show about this dude kind of teaching her like how to get through like all this trauma that she had in her life.
I guess this comes down to whether you think Mr. Beast recommended this anime to Ava because he thinks that she would resonate with its deep themes of overcoming trauma, or because Ava was very openly a lolicon, which it seems like something that Soggy isn't even trying to dispute here. Ava was a lolicon, and yeah, I think that if Mr. Beast is recommending this, it's probably not because of the themes. I just that's my opinion, but that's what I would Think about that.
You guys actively pissed off the entire anime side of Twitter with this one.
Whoa, pissed off the anime community on Twitter? You must have done something really bad to piss off anime fans on Twitter. That must have been a crazy accusation that you made.
I can't, dude. I can't.
So this next claim really does change my opinion on a lot of things about this, and I want to really apologize for my tone up to now in the video. He did wink.
He tried using contestant 58 from the ages 1 to 100 video by claiming that he didn't really wink.
I did wink.
This is just sad.
Dogpack just fucking lied and said that he didn't wink in the video, but he did wink. All of this was bullshit. Thank you for exposing this. Yeah, he did wink, and I just think that it's messed up. It's really messed up. What a piece of shit. What a fucking piece of shit. I'm giving you a full green tick for that one, Soggy. That was honestly, it's fucked up.
It's fucking disgusting. He won $1 million and then made a video after winning that prize, which Dogpack just took a very out of context clip from.
Another example of things slipping through the cracks.
I was telling him, I was like, man, I don't want to fail. I don't want to be like how everybody's saying, like I'm gonna run out of money and do all this crazy stuff. I was like, man, Jimmy, please help me. And he said he was gonna help me and we was gonna invest, but yeah, that didn't happen, so.
Oh no, he didn't invest for Mark! Oh wait, what's this clip right after? Which Dogpack conveniently didn't put in his video?
Invest, but yeah, that didn't happen, so. Yeah, and let me clarify, Jimmy did help me. He did help me financially, but like giving me money he did give me fun.
Isn't the whole point of showing this section that he was given $1 million as a prize? I definitely think of this one, there's sort of two sides to it. I think in context, this claim makes a lot more sense. No one's really disputing that the man who won $1 million didn't get financial aid. He was talking about getting investment advice and assistance with that kind of thing as an example of things slipping through the cracks. If this is something that was promised to him and then he didn't receive it, that would be an example of that happening. But no one's disputing that he didn't get the money. I don't think it's dishonest when you can see the title of the video right there. Do I regret winning $1 million? Probably not.
I know a lot of people believe in the delusion that defending Mr. Beast is the safe option. I know there's people have been living under a rock lately, but defending Mr. Beast right now is actual career suicide. While regurgitating Dogpack's lies is the easy and safe way to generate millions of views and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
As I was saying, I think this is the old meta we're talking about. Definitely at this point, I would say that having like a big expose on the guy who cancelled Mr. Beast is going to be at least more eye-catching to people than doing another Mr. Beast is bad video. Like at this point, what, 3 months, 4 months since anyone's like started talking about this? There's always going to be a certain amount of circling the drain of a situation like this, and evidently I think his video is probably a good example of how it probably wasn't career suicide for him.
Career suicide. He also made life-ruining allegations against Locoya Hill, who was the person that made the decision to fire Dogpack. Here's an audio clip from the leaked firing interview at Beast.
Leaked audio?
Well, because you're trying to fire me and I want to work at this company.
I'm the CEO of this company. If I'm talking, don't interrupt me.
I appreciate that. Can I please have a second chance?
It's not.
If I'm getting paid, just let me come in and let me try to be coached.
I wonder why he's trying to destroy Locoya's life.
Okay, so unless Soggy is actually going to refute the claims made against Locoya Hill, this is really just pure character assassination at this point.
It's like he's just doing all this out of a personal grudge. Yes.
I really can't think of anything that matters to me less than a guy was upset when he was fired from a company. If he's an ex-employee, I'm going to assume that at some point he was fired and he probably wasn't happy about that.
And after all this, I just know that he is a disgruntled employee.
Yeah, this is the one thing where I just feel like Soggy should have completely left this out. It makes him look so much like he's in bed with the Mr. Beast company to be leaking this audio. Like, you were given it. You were given the audio by the people working at the company because they have access to the audio, and that's the only way you have access to it. If this was leaked to you and you alone through some other means, then you wouldn't be aiding and abetting a criminal. Soggy, or I will report you to the FBI. You're not building a case against the claims made by Dogpack at this point. You are just trying to make his character look as bad as possible. It's not really necessary if the criticism he's making still applies, which in the case of Locoya Hill, those allegations do still exist. I'm not going to say you're like a vindictive scumbag toddler like you've been saying about Dogpack throughout this video, but I do think it's really bizarre that you're trying to downplay this just to get another dig on Dogpack. Especially when you have rightfully pointed out several things that Dogpack did either mess up on or was like actively malicious in sort of mistreating people that he was speaking to. Taking the audio of another co-worker spreading rumors about Mr. Beast. Yeah, like that's shitty for the same reason that I thought that the Prism stuff was shitty. I don't see why you then needed to bring in this stuff.
Here, Dogpack also uses another very manipulative tactic where he shows this stinky, dinky scrap metal rocket instantly exploding, while in reality, the actual spacecraft carrying the hard drive was a high-quality Vulcan Centaur rocket made in collaboration with NASA as well as the ULA.
What the fuck, man? It was a bigger rocket? Okay, this is the big one. This is a big green. Big green.
Stinky dinky rocket. High quality spacecraft carrying the hard drive with memes from Mr. Beast. Dogpack's manipulation. Reality.
It was a bigger... The rocket was way bigger, okay? It wasn't small. It was big. It was big. It was a big rocket. It still exploded, but it was a big rocket that exploded. It wasn't a small rocket that exploded. And yeah, that was just a bunch of baloney.
He also used this video as a prime example of Mr. Beast never using random subscribers, even though multiple people who can be identified by their nameplate can be proven to be random, non-influencer contestants from outside of North Carolina.
I will give Soggy credit on this part because he was right to say Dogpack obviously shouldn't have said they're never random subscribers. I would adjust that to they're never just random subscribers, which I think is a much more justifiable claim.
Oh, that contestant had to get out for her job? I guess you forgot she's your hiring manager. I actually recognize a lot of people in this video, including Jimmy's own girlfriend.
And often the Mr. Beast employees are the ones who win the prizes. That in itself is something that I think is worthy of criticism, and I do feel like for the most part people were criticizing that, not the idea that across thousands of people that have worked with Mr. Beast on these various game shows, there were obviously going to be random subscribers mixed in there. I think that is one of those things that is very easy to disprove, and I'm not sure why it would be phrased that way. So it's like I'm kind of split on this one. Yes, Mr. Beast employees often take part in the games. Yes, Mr. Beast employees often win the prizes, but it's not always just Mr. Beast employees, which you could kind of assume by the fact that a lot of the time it's hundreds of people involved. Several of these challenges literally involved children and babies. And I don't think the babies were employed.
So you could assume that producers might be off camera with remote switches to trigger the flow of water.
Assume my ass. You didn't assume shit. You're breaking your NDA.
Bro broke his NDA. I wouldn't listen to the hearsay of someone who broke an NDA. Do they not even care about contract law?
And yes, I do give permission to anyone whose life got damaged by Dawson French to use my video against him in court. Just like they replaced contestants who had COVID with employees, because for safety reasons. A thing you so vehemently claim they lack at the company.
Is he gonna bring up the Beast games? The lawsuit that's currently taking place regarding mismanagement of game show contestants? I feel like that's relevant if you're now going to jump into this defense of the environment that these games often had, especially when you've spent the first 10 minutes of this video disparaging Jake Weddle because he took the money.
Caused them emotional distress. He didn't give them meal breaks. He didn't give them rest breaks. Oh my God, were they locked up, forced against their will? This wasn't about the contestants voluntarily staying because they wanted the money, right? While contestants were free to leave the competition anytime, and he stayed despite the conditions, hoping to win the grand prize. Dude, how many Jake Weddles are there in this world?
You can clearly see there's no one in the shelter. These are their empty beds. But you didn't spend the night soaked, Jimmy. You slept on the production yacht.
Oh yeah. You lied about them allegedly sleeping on a luxurious production yacht. No, they were forced to stay on a rusty barge for about an hour for their own safety.
I mean, again, outside of the context of misleading game show challenges, I don't really care that much about the altering of content when it's just like pure entertainment stuff, like I was trapped on a thing for 7 days. With that said, this is a really weak defense. Yes, I guess disclose it if there's a storm that forces you to get off of the boat, because that is something that is a part of the content. I certainly wouldn't be cancelling Mr. Beast because he got off of the boat at one point due to a storm, but like I don't even know why this thing would need to be called out. It's like, yeah, he did. In fact, the content was misleading. It happened, and from the outside, the boat probably doesn't look that nice, but maybe the rooms inside were nice. I don't know. Actually, no one would know because what you're showing is footage that you got from an employee at the company and that people wouldn't have otherwise had access to.
Pick a side, Dawson. Do you want them to fucking die for a challenge, or do you want them to be saved?
Do you want people to die, Dogpack? Why do you want people to die? Clearly you want people to die. I can't believe Dogpack said that he wanted people to die of COVID on a boat and then drown.
Or not always use random subscribers. Do I really have to explain why they don't use complete strangers in challenges that include a man and a woman having to stay together in a small enclosed space for 100 days?
You're claiming there's nepotism involved in these game show challenges? What, do you want people to get murdered? I feel like there's got to be some kind of middle ground here between calling out a company for possibly being nepotistic in the way that they hand out prizes or give people chances to appear on their videos, and saying, yeah, I don't want there to be no checks and balances on who is involved in any of these challenges. I hope it makes sense what I'm saying. If the claim is that they faked the content, saying, well, they only faked the content for safety reasons, doesn't refute the idea that they faked it. You could just jump into a kind of broader talk about how much this is really matters when we're talking just about sort of throwaway entertainment content. Maybe you could say something about how Mr. Beast builds his brand on the idea that all of the things he does are very authentic.
If what we did was scripted, holy shit, this stuff would be easy to pump out.
In which case, I would say, yeah, why not remain authentic by openly disclosing it when you have to sort of stop the challenge for safety reasons. But you could also say, in the grand scheme of things, this maybe doesn't matter that much. In any case, this is another case where you're not really refuting what's being said, you're just downplaying it by adding this other surface detail. I'm going to give you a squiggle for that one.
And in the process harmed not just Mr. Beast, but also several other innocent people.
It's so bizarre to be simultaneously painting Jake Weddle as a victim of Dogpack when you yourself have gone after Jake Weddle in this video.
Because this AI-generated disinformation video is the one that got your channel monetized. There's a lot more to be said about him.
That's my brand, is being honest and crying a lot.
Like, does he not think that Jake Weddle is gonna get a whole ton of shit now because of this whole segment you did about how, oh, it actually wasn't a war crime, it was actually a joke, he was lying about war crime. Like, when you know, which you clearly do, about the harassment that Jake Weddle has gotten since he was sort of public about his experiences with Mr. Beast, it just feels really transparent that you don't give a fuck about any of this when you are then going after him in the video.
But now the results of an investigation done into the Mr. Beast LLC by an external third-party law firm have been shared and completely aligns with all of the evidence I've found. So if at this point you still choose to believe this guy, I kindly want to ask you to stop watching my video and continue putting crayons up your nose.
So I'm sort of half into what he's been saying in this video, so I'm thinking hopefully a paintbrush is adequate.
So here's a clip of Tyler forging, or not, maybe not forging, using Mr. Beast's signature. And again, I'm not a lawyer, I think this is fraud.
Your opinions are fucking stupid. It's completely legal and fine to use someone else's signature if they gave you formal consent to do so, and it doesn't devalue the signature.
That's a rather objective statement, considering the level of hedges that you've just put in there. Is it completely fine? I don't think it's completely fine. I think that many people did buy those things with the impression, makes sense why, that it is Mr. Beast signing the shirt. And yes, the fact that now it's out there that many of these shirts were not actually signed by the person that is on the shirt, very likely will devalue them. It's definitely misleading, and I would say for many people that received them or sold them or anything else, I wouldn't say that's fine in a sort of outright, oh yeah, it's definitely fine. I'd say that's up to the people that got those shirts. I'm not really sure why that would be an example of something that's wrong to criticize him for, especially when you've really put your foot down at this point that everything Dogpack's saying is total bullshit. This really feels like he's tipping his hat to the fact that this isn't really I'm not really on one side or the other thing. You have to admit that, yeah, there's something pretty sketchy about this practice, but, you know, what do I know? I don't exist. I just don't understand. Oh, fuck.
I went over everything I knew about Dogpack to try and figure out his motivation. I rewatched his first 2 job applications for Mr. Beast, which both got denied, and they seemed obsessive at best and pretentiously unprofessional at worst. I went over his personal Reddit account, that 5-head guy, which, for the geriatrics watching, 5-head is hip internet lingo for when a person says something very smart, so he's calling himself very smart, which is pretty pretentious and cringe.
Yeah, you got him. His Reddit username is very cringe. I feel like I just aged like 20 years over the course of this response.
So, was he really just doing all this because his ego couldn't accept the fact that he got fired from his dream job after only 3 weeks?
Considering this video is an hour and a half long, this really feels like something that should have stayed on the editing room floor. I really don't see the need to make such specific character attacks on this guy. If you just want to attack the things that he's saying, just attack the things that he's saying. This really devalues everything you're saying and just makes it seem completely vindictive. I don't actually know anything about Soggy Cereal before I made this video. I'd never seen his channel before, and I didn't do any investigative research on what his motivations might have been, because I don't think it's strictly necessary to refute the things that he's saying. I came into this already agreeing with some of the things that he's criticized Dogpack for in this video, and you know, coming back against some of the things that he's claiming. None of it required me to look up his Reddit history and find bad Wojak memes that he made or anything like that, or reasons that he might dislike someone outside of the criticisms that he's making of them. If the goal really was just going after Dogpack in a kind of lol-cow entertainment slop way, where you're just destroying his character for the sake of it, yeah, that makes sense, but it really discredits it when you're trying to put this in the context of some kind of legitimate response video. Like, one thing that just feels like it's so on the nose that I can't not bring it up right now, not disclosing the fact that you were paid by an employee to take these flights over to the company. That's something that really seems like it would damage your character. The fact that it took people finding out outside of the context of the original video for you to finally confess to it.
I've heard some stories of people feeling kind of off when he was hired, and I was wondering, why did you hire him?
I didn't hire that guy.
Oh,
no, I inherited that man.
This segment's just honestly trash, man. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about the character of Dogpack. I just care about the things that are being said and whether there's some legitimacy to them. And to be honest, pretty much everything you've said here so far, I think that there's a lot of misleading and dishonest responses that you're making. A lot of the things that you're saying, oh, you said that this thing was fake, was faked. Or a lot of the things you're saying, oh, they did this thing, but they might not have known that they did it. It's just, the fact is that I have so far, and I did write these down because this is very important to me. We talked about the hiring of Delaware. That's the thing that happened. We talked about Ava's known behavior at the company. That was something that happened. We talked about the use of employees in his game shows. That's something that did happen. We talked about unethical associations with the Feastables brand.
It's infinitely better than the other options out there.
We talked about the possible mistreatment of people in the game shows, which conveniently you've just skipped entirely past the Beast Games thing that is clearly the biggest story when it comes to that kind of situation. So much of this is way more complicated than you're portraying it, and yet you've now like crossed the finish line, and now this is, I guess, just 30 minutes of, oh, here's why Dogpack is a bad person. Literally sponsored by the Mr. Beast company.
Can you tell me a bit about your relationship with Dawson during both of you guys working there? Was there something that felt off?
I'll say this. I don't think that we should necessarily dismiss every claim made by a current Mr. Beast employee just because they are employees of Mr. Beast. It is an undeniable fact that because they are current employees, they are heavily financially incentivized to give him the benefit of the doubt in every case. I don't think that's enough to dismiss everything they might have to say. But it's a reason that you can't just treat them as the sort of word of God that's going to have the objective facts in the way that this is being presented in Soggy Cereal's video. What they have is a perspective which is gonna be informed by the fact that they are currently working with the person who is being criticized.
He seemed pretty disinterested in making genuine connections with people at the company. He gave weird vibes for sure.
Hey, so remember when I said that thing at the start about muddying the waters? I feel like this has really transitioned from, I think, a well-meaning video attempting to hit back at some of the exaggerated claims that are being made about this situation. It's really just morphed into a pure character attack of the biggest figurehead in the movement against Mr. Beast.
But yeah, Dawson definitely did not like Hoodie. Did not like Hoodie, did not show him any respect, even though he was his superior and he was trying to train him into being a better ideation strategist.
I feel like this is so clearly playing exactly into the hands of anyone who would want to dismiss everything that Soggy is saying in this video. Sorry, Mr. Cereal.
I heard that he told the chef that his food was trash.
I heard that story too, yeah.
I think there's a level of bad faith when you're literally interviewing people about someone being too critical of the catering, the company.
I'm not sure how much truth there is to that, but
God,
I mean, maybe we could call him and see.
There was a leaked document. There was a line in there, no doesn't mean no, and it has a pretty negative connotation.
Yeah, so I actually wrote that part. That's why it's funny. No doesn't mean no is wildly taken out of context, I think, in this situation, because in the way that we mean it, it's a sales tactic. In no sense of the word, in the context, means, like, as a female, if somebody comes up to me and says an improper comment, like, they keep trying. Like,
Was that the claim? Okay. So in the Mr. Beast leaked employee document, when it says no does not mean no, what they're not saying that it's at the company it's policy to allow sexual assault. Okay. Yeah, that was definitely a claim that people were making. I feel the need to actually go back and just read the actual paragraph that's listed here. If you need a store to buy everything inside of and you call the local Dollar Tree and the person that answers says, no, you can't film here, that literally doesn't mean shit. Talk to other employees and see if any are fans or if any have kids that are fans. Try talking to their boss, their boss's boss. Have me DM them on Twitter and try their social team. If after all avenues are exhausted and you're left with a no, that doesn't mean don't try the other Dollar Trees, because the manager of those could be huge fans and willing to bend the rules. Basically what I'm trying to convey is the what we call pushing through no. Don't just stop because one person told you no. Stop when all conceivable options are exhausted. Right, so I think the actual criticism being made is that Mr. Beast employees are incentivized to constantly push even when they have been told no when it comes to unethical behaviors. In the context that it was being talked about before, it was Jake Weddle and how Jake Weddle was treated during his game show challenges. If he was mistreated in his challenge and he felt pressured to continue, who is to say that that didn't also happen in other contexts? What is being described in this paragraph is just harassment of employees trying to find out if people's kids might be Mr. Beast fans to try to persuade people that way.
You know, there's a big emphasis at the company of like how to manipulate children.
That in itself, I think, is something that can be criticized. And I don't think we're talking about a policy of sexual assault at the company. I feel like we're bringing the Mon Bailey thing to just a ridiculous level at this point. We're just totally refuting things that no one is saying at this point.
When he spoke out, I know what he ran into as well. I know he ran into people that sent him hate. I know he ran into people that were sending him death threats. I know that he got doxxed. I know his phone number got leaked.
So, Soggy, did you do that interview before or after you decided to attack Jake Weddle in this video?
Stone is a lot to do. So we hired a massive excavating team to come out and dig the other 30 feet out. And then the reason that the hole is CG'd in the video is because of safety, right?
So the hole was CGI. Again, not something that really matters. I don't really care if the hole was really as deep as it looked in the video, but so the pit was CGI. He was said that the pit was CGI, and you were like, haha, take that, Dogpack. It wasn't CGI. And I was like, okay, I'll take that for granted. I think I gave you a tick for that one. I'm gonna have to remove the tick now. You've lost the tick. I'm gonna make the X a double X just for that. Take that. How about that? How do you feel about that?
So something I also want to ask you about is about Locoya Hill, and there was some mismanagement from him towards his assistant.
When someone reports something to HR, which would have been me at the time because it was years ago.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody reports it, I go, hey, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. We're gonna make sure that we do everything we can to look into it. Then we always hire a third party. Internally, what we do is okay, the assistant, what do you want to happen, right? If it's this, if it's that, obviously if it's found he's gone, that's not okay in any workplace,
If it's confirmed that there is something, then. Yeah.
Of course, I don't want to be around them. I don't want to see them. It's just really uncomfortable for me, So we're okay, great. So I actually worked with them to come up with a list of jobs that he wanted, because again, if the person who he's assisting is not here, it's okay, well, now what's your job? So it was we came up with everything he was interested in, what he wanted to do and stuff like that, and move him into a different role. And we said, hey, you won't have to see Locoya again. We're gonna move him completely out. The assistant worked with us for a long time, and then when he wasn't here anymore, I think it was almost a year after the assistant had chosen to do whatever he wanted to do. Then we were okay, we'll bring Locoya back. To this point, there's no conflict anymore.
What the fuck, man? I really assumed that there were going to be some big receipts about the Locoya Hill thing. So Dogpack disclosed these accusations, specifically talking about how Locoya had this position, then these claims were made against him of sexual harassment, then he was moved to somewhere else, and then he was brought back in. And that's what they just said happened. They just used different language to say the exact same thing. So Dogpack is a scumbag for bringing these things up when... Oh yeah, he's just going after him because he fired him. That's the only reason, not the fact that these claims seemingly did actually occur. I'm in a bad place now. What the fuck's wrong with you?
There's no conflict anymore.
There's no conflict anymore.
It's like he's just doing all this out of a personal grudge. Yes.
I've officially gone into the sunken place with this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going on. I'm not even taking notes anymore.
Any weird stories circulating or whatever of something Dawson did at the company or...
Excellent journalism going on here. Anything that might be cringe about the person that I'm criticizing in this video? Any lolcow fuel you might have for us, maybe?
Hey, Emily, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing alright.
Cool. Well, I'm here with Soggy. I wanted to ask you, I have a question to ask you about Dawson, but I want to make sure you're comfortable being recorded first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Soggy's on a first name basis with the chef? This is such a stupid minutia, but the idea that she randomly called the chef of the company and was like, oh yeah, I'm here with Soggy, no follow-up questions, who is Soggy? So in advance of Soggy coming to the company, the chef was asked if he could call in to corroborate that Dogpack didn't like the food.
So I heard a rumor circulating that Dawson told you that your food was trash.
I feel an obligation to finish this video because I'm only 10 minutes away, but my mind is just gone at this point.
He actually came over, tried some of the food that we had in the fridge.
I feel like this is the part of the video that was only made for the 12-year-olds watching. You shouldn't be rude to catering staff, for the record. I don't think it's relevant in this particular case, but yeah, be a nice person in general. You should tip the wait staff. You should tip your delivery driver. You should tip anyone. Tip your hairdresser. Definitely tip your hairdresser. Tip your hairdresser. Probably double anyone else. You should just double whatever the hairdresser charges you.
Recently, there was this video that started getting some traction. One of the clinics where some of the eye surgeries were happening and helping 1,000 people see for the first time. And they claimed that the Mr. Beast company hadn't paid for any of the surgeries yet.
We worked with a third party, and that third party worked with a bunch of different organizations all around the world because we were trying to spread it as far as we could, multiple countries. One of those organizations somewhere around the world didn't receive the compensation.
I feel like accidentally not doing the charity that you said you were going to do is a good example of something slipping through the cracks at the company. The thing that you attacked Dogpack for criticizing Mr. Beast for.
All the way from America and back, and all I gotta show for it is this ugly plushie and this fart gun from Minions.
Minions, bro. Minions, bro.
But there's one more thing I have to clarify for everyone, and that is the illegal lottery number 1, which, on my flight back, I finally found some proof that the first illegal lottery was in fact illegal.
So I think the video made some good and bad points. MS Paint Jack here filling in. This ended up being a much longer and messier response than I expected, so I wanted to wrap it up here alongside the soothing footage of me playing RimWorld. Here's the thing. Something Soggy Cereal kept expressing in his attack on Dogpack was a concern about his own knowledge of how audiences can be manipulated, and his feeling that Dogpack used that knowledge to twist facts in a way that elevated himself to his viewers. Having watched Soggy's video as well as Dogpack's, I've come to conclude that both of them have been manipulative in their own ways. And now, having watched my own response to Soggy dozens of times while editing this, I also have been manipulative. To a large extent, I think this comes with the format and expectations of this type of content. Inevitably, while putting this together, I want my feelings to come across clearly. By the nature of what I'm doing, I get the comfort of being able to make an argument to a video that can't directly argue back. And even if I had some kind of direct back and forth conversation with Soggy, there could always be facts overlooked or opinions expressed with just the right rhetorical flourish to give a false impression. Through all of this, I have to hope that there is something to say here that goes beyond just opinion. Mr. Beast and his company did factually do wrong. Even Soggy Cereal doesn't deny this. Some of that can be blamed on incompetence or inexperience, blowing up too fast in an industry built around profit well before accountability. As I said in my last video, a lot of this is rooted in systemic problems and not Mr. Beast as an individual. It's why so much of this goes back to things being not technically right, but also things we have come to expect in corporate culture. Misleading marketing, donations falling through the cracks, mistreatment being quickly swept under the rug. It's also why, to an extent, I really can't hold it against Soggy that he was paid by an employee for some of this coverage, or as I showed earlier, the YouTuber Umperville taking investment money from Mr. Beast at a time when he himself was struggling with his own business. I could say these things harm their credibility, but given my own defense of people like Jake Weddle, I think that would be somewhat hypocritical. In the end, it takes us again away from the harm itself and to the questions many of Mr. Beast's defenders keep dragging us back to: motive and intent. These are things much harder to prove than the simple facts of what happened. That's why it's usually something left to actual courtrooms and not influencers making content. So I'm sort of stuck between 2 points, because on some level I want the takeaway of this video to be the things I tried to clarify in my responses, because I live in constant fear of having a take that ages badly. But then another part of me says maybe it's exactly these kinds of minutiae that aren't materially important. What's important is understanding that it's not some grand tragedy for a monolith like Mr. Beast to crumble in front of our eyes. We should expect it, because what makes Mr. Beast bad is also what makes the world bad. And if that's something we're paying attention to, then we can anticipate it and not get constantly caught in this murk of which celebrities we can and can't put all our hopes and dreams in. We can't, ever, because those celebrities can only ever be what the society that elevates them permits them to be, and can only ever become the things they are rewarded for being. Here's my main takeaway. You should go watch my Joker video now. It's a good video and I liked it. Also, if you like my videos, consider commenting below, or sharing the video also helps a lot. Maybe spread some Christmas cheer by sending a tip on YouTube or Ko-fi, or backing me over on Patreon. And if you do that, you get on to be on the credits that are currently scrolling now. I feel like I've gotten into a good flow with making videos, and I hope that continues into 2025, which does anyone else still kind of feel like that's like a science fiction number, or is it just me? Whoops, I'm being a millennial again.